on
agree.
that.
How do you fix it?
We can bring in Craig Simpson and ask him. Simmer, the YouTube chat, Leafs are too top heavy, but
So do you split up the top line then, Kip, and try to spread it out? Is that what?
Let me ask you something. As a top winger, you've been used to, a lot of your years. You get the top centerman. You know when a guy's going, when a guy's not going. You've watched Tavares from your play-by-play booth. Like, what does he need? Is it a shake-up? Was that something that helped you when maybe your centerman was struggling?
I think at times you always think the coach gets to a point where he's either given you more ice time or maybe he's held you back a couple of times to maybe get you irritated, see if that gets you motivated. But at some point, you usually find that you got to maybe mix the line a little bit. I thought the fact that last game having to make the change because of the, Engvall being out, so Kerfoot goes down, Kasha has a little bit of a different look there. Might have been able to get something. I mean, it got Nylander another goal, which got him, on a little bit of a run when he's been struggling. But there's no question that every player is going to go through those stretches where your confidence is down. I thought even John, I think it was 2 games ago, was asked after about some frustration after missed shots. And he said, yeah, I got to curtail that. And that's a wasted energy and it doesn't help. But it's human. I think you're used to the puck finding its way on your stick or getting a good chance. And, you go maybe 4 or 5 games without a goal and then bang, you get one and you're feeling good again. So this is one of those long stretches, the 3rd longest stretch of his entire career. And so that you press a little bit more, your confidence is definitely not there. I think I made the comment, watching the Matthews line and even Marner now, Marner had the ability to shoot before, but now in this stretch that he's on, when he's got the puck and he's in a dangerous area, he's not just shooting. He's got the mindset that he's going to score. And that's not a different person. That's just a different confidence and character of yourself and understanding the role that you're on and the run that you're on. There are times when the net just looks huge and you can't believe, you didn't score when you shoot it. And on the flip side, Tavares had a couple of quick chances in the slot that he had to readjust the puck a little bit. So maybe it took an extra second. And instead of getting a good shot away, he got one with a defenseman's stick in the way, so it didn't get there, or got deflected, or one that he didn't put it where he wanted to. And you can just see it physically in the way the guy is moving and reacting, the difference in those 2 guys, just as an example of how one is free-flowing and not thinking and just reacting, and the other guy's, got a tight wrist on his stick and trying to create something but not doing anything easily.
Yeah, you're talking about the mental side of the game because it is. You can see the extra half second he seems to be taking with the puck.
Yeah.
We were keeping on we were discussing the Leafs' mental side of things, I guess, coming out for that 3rd period. And if they played differently or worse, how much do you assign the Red Wings coming back on them to strictly bad goaltending versus the way the Leafs played?
I think the bad goaltending starts the onslaught, right? Like, you get the goal in the first minute, that should never be a goal. So, okay, that rattles you a little bit. It's human nature. You got a 7-2 lead. That's hard to keep the intensity you had in that second period when everything was clicking and everybody was scoring and you had the puck the whole time. You go in and it's like, okay, this one's over. So I do think that the goaltending plays the part in giving a little bit of oh, God, I can't believe that one. Oh, that's 7-3. It's no big deal. And then you get another one that's not great. And now you've got the double whammy of your goaltender is fluxumed and his mind is rattled and spinning. And now the Red Wings are going, there's nothing to lose now. Let's giddy up and get her going. So I think I really liked the comments by Sheldon after the game. And it would have been an easy one to focus on the bad things that happened in the 3rd. And it probably wouldn't have done you any good because every guy knows, that was a unique and crazy period that happens once, maybe every 5 to 6 years. And instead, he focused on the reaction of Mikheyev scoring just a huge goal to get the momentum back. And then at a 8-7 time in the game, you get a penalty kill that you have to have, and the Killers do an excellent job, and then Kasha scores the shorthanded goal. And so I really thought, as a player, you get tired of listening to the same thing from the coach, and coaches always have to be aware of what their messaging is, because over 82 games, it'll drive guys nuts. And so you come out of that craziness, and the end result is you got your 2 points. It doesn't do any good for the goaltenders, not only their averages, but their mentality. But I thought it was a good time to focus on the positives there and praise the guys who got themselves back in to help Peter Mrazek. I've said it on the broadcast. There is no way Mrazek was ever thinking he was going in to that game unless something physically happened to Campbell. So, I think that's the messaging that you get through that. You kind of have to burn the tape, so to speak, on that third. But you learn another lesson, that you survived it. And a couple of key times in the game, your team responded with what you needed. And that was a big play. And those are the kind of things that, that game in a playoff series, if you lose that game, that might lose you the series. Like, that just might change the whole dynamic. So I think you get out of that going, we learned a little bit. We learned a little bit about ourselves, and let's think about the positive things that the guys were able to do under really quite crazy circumstances.
We're talking to Craig Simpson, Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Night in Canada analyst. We know Mrazek will go tonight against the Washington Capitals, and possibly the feeling is that you can go back to Jack on Wednesday against Buffalo. But there is a third option, and it's 3 weeks before the trade deadline. Is there a conversation right now amongst Leaf management on whether or not we need to explore other options, or are we absolutely married to Campbell and Mrazek right through the end of the season and the playoffs?
I think there's no question that you have to stick with what you got. Just look at the situation with not only cap, but time. You've invested in Mrazek. You're trying to get him now into a little bit of a role to see, he might end up being an option come playoff time as well. But I don't think it's reality to look around. I mean, this talk, I live in Edmonton, as you guys know, and this talk's been going around there basically all season long. And even though they had, much greater exemplified troubles in goal, you're still looking at, okay, who is that person? And who's going to be the one that's going to be better than Jack Campbell when Jack's playing his best, or the way he was in the first, 17 games of the year? And you still don't totally know. You know some historical numbers from Mrazek. Like, look at how good Mrazek was in Carolina at the end. And, you might get him on a hot run that gets you through a stretch where maybe Jack falters for a couple games. So I don't think it's realistic. I understand the discussion, but when you're trying to juggle cap and maybe get some relief from Muzzin on long term, I think you still have to look at your D, or as whoever you were saying was typing in, a third line guy that might be a reliable defensive player and a guy who can chip in goal wise.
Craig, one thing we haven't talked about so far is what'd you make of Nick Robertson? First time he's been in a regular season game for the Leafs. Did you notice him at all?
No, it's a tough game for him. And obviously the third period would have been a time in normal circumstance that you could play the heck out of him, right? With a lead that the way they had. And then all of a sudden it went sideways. So I don't think anybody was playing sort of, okay, let's see what this kid's got mode. In the third, it just got all thrown into the blender, and it's like, let's just try to survive this thing. With that being said, I thought in the third, he did what he had to do. He wasn't the cause of a lot of panic in his own end. And, coming in, the hardest part is being an offensive-minded player, and you're playing in a fourth-line role, albeit, you can trade the puck with Spezza. He can make some plays. So it's not like you're playing with a guy who doesn't know how to play offense. But that, as Nick, we've said it so many times, that fourth line, that first shift of the game is just an enormous one. Like, you have a good first shift, you're getting the second one quicker. And if you have another good one, then you're into the game and the coach has faith in you. But that's a tough way to play, and that's a tough way to play for a young guy getting in. So with all that being said, I thought he was fine. I hope he gets a chance to play again today and maybe a more normal game, and you can get a sense to see if he can make some plays and, be conscious with the puck and not be turning it over, but show the skill set that he has. And that's, I think, ideally what they need to see a little bit more of to know what they have in the young player.
Well, just listening to you